Hello! Welcome back to my garden. It is a nice sunny day today and it is a Sunday, which means my neighbors are not annoying the absolute living daylight out of me with their ongoing construction. So I thought, perfect timing to spend a little bit of time in the garden, clean up the garden because we've experienced a little bit of winter damage and make it look as good as it can look during the middle of winter. And I thought I'll take you along and we can chat a little bit about it. Hey everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Technically it is exactly the middle of winter. We are halfway through July, and June, July and August are considered winter months over here in Australia, specifically in Sydney, Australia. We do have 4 seasons. We are quite lucky that we aren't quite getting exposed to freezing temperatures, but winter is not defined by it being freezing. Winter is actually defined by it just being the coldest one out of the 4 seasons. During the night it usually goes down to single digits. The coldest I've seen was 2 degrees. During the day, right now for example, it's 16 degrees, so definitely not cold, but I suppose 16 is the maximum, and usually I don't like to go below 16, so 16 should really be the minimum, not the maximum, but so be it. As a result of that though, I am definitely seeing yellow leaves, which I don't like to look at. So I've been dying to get out here and just clean things up a little bit, make it look good, because I still spend time here during the day. I still look out into the garden a lot, so I still want it to look nice and spark joy. So, you know, out of sight, out of mind. If I chop off all of the things that went wrong, then it didn't happen, right? So let's chop off those things first, and then I'll take you a bit closer later. And while I do this, I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about it, because eventually it will be your turn to go into winter, or if you are in the southern hemisphere, maybe you can empathize with my thoughts. I absolutely hate winter because I do not enjoy being cold, but most importantly, I hate the darkness. I just cannot deal with it perpetually being dark. It makes me really sad. And I don't like being sad. I like being happy. I like spending time in my garden. I enjoy being in the sun. Obviously always sun smart with sun protection, sunscreen and all of that. Talking about it, I think the sun is hitting you a little bit. That's fine. So winter is my least favorite season by far. It's a bit of a struggle every year because I feel like I'm getting seasonal depression. And by the way, this plant is doing really badly. The Siltepecana. Look, there's lots and lots of yellow leaves everywhere, which is a bit of a surprise because this was already out here last year, but I'm thinking these are just really old leaves. So I'm not super concerned just yet, but I need to make a conscious effort to get vines to grow back onto this pole to create a lush pole, because all of the vines are just going off in all directions. And I know a lot of people suffer through seasonal depression, and I suppose maybe in the northern hemisphere in really cold countries it would be worse, but you always got to see things in perspective, right? So I mean, that's how your brain works. You know, all of these pictures where, for example, you see 2 squares and it looks like one is white and one is black, but if you remove the surroundings, turns out they were actually both gray. Your brain just perceived it white and black based on its surrounding. And exactly like that with temperature as well. Yes, on paper it is not that cold. There's many countries that have way worse winters, but in comparison to what we're used to, and also in relation to how our housing and the whole infrastructure is set up, it feels way worse. You know what I mean? I feel like Sydney is definitely a city that is supposed to be enjoyed in the open. You're supposed to enjoy the nature. Like most restaurants have like 50% outdoor seating and things like that. And then suddenly for 3 months of the year it is so cold that it just feels out of place. Like it's just like, it just feels like we didn't expect it to get that cold, so we didn't build infrastructure for that type of temperature, yet we experience 3 months of that cold every year. So it feels a bit weird. It feels like we're a little bit underprepared even though we should be more prepared. So it's really just in comparison to what we are used to and how we are supposed to enjoy the city, the winter months are just not it, at least for me. Oh no, this is looking really terrible. Let me show you this real quick. Nah, these leaves are going very yellow. Not happy. The ones on the top are looking okay though. It is this plant's first year out here, so I'm not 100% sure if it's gonna survive, but by the looks of it, it's not going to survive. And then I'll also chop off a few of these really ugly Canna Cleopatras. I'm surprised they lasted that long. They should have already been dormant by now. Now the other thing that I think makes winter a little bit worse for me recently, or over the last few years, is that I used to have a full-time job in finance, and during winters also end of financial year. So I used to always just be really busy during winter with my other job, to the extent where I hardly get to see the sun, right? Like I was always just working the whole sunlight hours. It gets dark at like 4:30 or something like that during the height of winter. And I suppose as a result of that, I didn't, especially because I worked from home a lot as well, there was just full-on days or weeks where I hardly left the house, so I didn't really experience winter much. It didn't really bother me that much. But now that my job is to grow plants, and a lot of my plants are out here in the garden suffering during the colder months, indoors they're not suffering as much because obviously I heat the house and so on. I just feel like I'm more aware of winter. Like I check the temperatures every day, you know, which is something that I used to never do. So I just feel like I'm also just consciously paying more, I also feel like I'm obviously paying more attention to it, and you know, that kind of feeds the beast. The more attention you give something, the more you focus on something, the more it can annoy you, right? So I'm kind of annoyed at myself for giving the weather such an importance in my life. And I'm just like, why am I so dependent on the weather? And then I realized, you know what, I'm just a glorified houseplant after all, that's why. So yeah, in winter, my plants aren't thriving, which makes it harder for me to film content, which makes it also, you know, a little, like it's my job. I just feel like I suck at my job during winter, and I need to constantly remind myself that the reason why some of my plants are dying is not because of me, it's not because of my skills as a plant parent or because I'm doing something wrong. It's just nature taking over. It's the natural cycle. But it is obviously not the motivating part of the year. And I'm sure most plant parents can kind of understand, right? It's harder to feel motivated to keep going with this hobby in winter when everything goes downhill. By now I kind of embrace my failures as well, and I want to show you my failures as well, so that you guys realize that it happens to everybody, even to somebody who seemingly lives in a perfect climate, who can do this full time. My plants still suffer during this season as well. Oh my god, look at all this dirt behind this couch. I think we're gonna get rid of this today as well. Ooh, this looks a bit dead. Maybe I'll chop this and I can reshoot. I'll try and make the best out of this season, and you know, instead take a bit of time for me as a person, because in spring, summer I'm so busy with the channel and with my plants and so on. So this time of the year is the perfect time for me to focus on myself a little bit, spoil myself, not be so harsh on myself, and so on, you know. Take a bit of time off. So this banana got absolutely smashed by winds. These leaves are on their way out, or they got snapped off like this one, or they just got completely destroyed like this one over here. Or if you look at the smaller plant down here, the one that's more protected because it's not so big and not hidden down below, that plant isn't suffering at all. So I think it's not necessarily the temperatures that are wrong with this plant over here. I think it's very much just mechanical damage, and that's okay. Well, I'll leave those 3 leaves, otherwise it's going to be sad. This leaf in itself, for example, took a month or so to unfurl. So I feel like in winter I'm always a little bit on the edge, and then like sometimes there's like small things that can really tip me over. For example, at the beginning of winter, first my phone broke. it just didn't want to charge anymore, so I had to go buy a new phone because I use my phone a lot for work. Then my gimbal broke, so I had to go buy a new gimbal. And now my microphone broke as well, and that is on top of my computer breaking at the beginning of the financial year, and my camera broke as well that I had to get repaired. So last financial year, literally every single piece of equipment I use for filming broke at some stage or had some sort of issues. And sometimes that is such a small thing that just really spirals me out of control, where I'm like, am I even going to replace this now or not? I suck at growing plants anyway, everything is dying. Why am I going to replace my camera now so I can film dead leaves? And that's the moment where I know I need to take a little break and I need to spend a little bit of time away from my business, away from the internet, away from the numbers and statistics. Just spend a bit of time with my friends and enjoy life, and then the next day I come back and I look at it and I'm just like, oh my god, I was overreacting a lot. And I feel like these overreactions are just amplified in winter because I'm already on edge the whole time because I'm just miserable. Which is so funny because AJ, for example, loves winter. She likes the cold temperatures. That's for her the time of the year where she can get more work done because she doesn't like to do all too much work when it's too hot. And I'm the opposite. I'm like just hibernating inside, waiting for it to be hot. And then as soon as it's like 30 degrees, I want to be back in the garden and do work. But I definitely think one thing that has helped me this year over last year was that I went to Bangkok. I think being in Bangkok, experience hot weather over there, just as a little reminder, like yes, warm weather does exist. And just in general, just breaking it up a little bit, and then coming back from Bangkok, being really busy with content I normally wouldn't have, because I struggle more in winter producing content and I can't afford to not post content. So obviously during winter there's less to do, so less content, so I'm struggling a little bit more. So that just gave me a little bit of ease on a personal level because I enjoy the heat, but also on a professional level because it enabled me to have a little bit of additional content ready for you without it being boring. Oh, this just came out like that. I'll just put the rhizome. Should I put the rhizome back? No, I will do something different with the rhizome. Now that it came out like that, might as well. I'll put it in my pocket and hopefully not forget about it. Now around Bangkok, I definitely want to do a little debrief video with you and share all of my thoughts and opinions on the whole trip and everything that I've seen and experienced over there, but I haven't made up my mind yet as to what I want to say and what I rather not talk about, right? Because I definitely have opinions, but I think I already got in trouble a little bit with how vocal I am about plants in general. And as much as, you know what, I have the right to my own opinion, I don't know if I want to, feed into that sort of negativity and cause like a whole lot of controversy online, or make myself enemy number one for the rare plant community, or if I'm just going to be the bigger person and I let it slide. Haven't really made up my mind. Some days I feel like, yeah, I want to tell them my opinion, let's go. And then other days I'm just like, let's just be non-controversial. Basically, in a nutshell, I think I offended a few people by my vocal opinions about some of their plants. Well, who's surprised? I think I've always been pretty vocal with my opinions on plants, and I suppose that's what you guys know me for, so I'm not too sure how anybody was surprised about that. I was like, hang on, isn't that what you came here for? But yeah, I'm sure you can put one and one together. Me being too vocal with my opinions rubbed a few people the wrong way. And I usually have the desire to defend myself, but at the same time, maybe I don't need to defend myself and my opinions. Maybe I can just let it slide. Maybe me defending my opinions is just going to fuel the fire even more. Anyway, I'm just teasing you by now because I haven't decided yet if I'm going to fuel the fire or not. How do you feel about that? Would you rather have me be quiet and less controversial, or do you rather have me be vocal but potentially a little bit controversial? Like, not at all times, just for that video. What's your preference? What do you think? I spoke to Timmy about it and he's in two minds about it as well. So, I don't know. Okay, let's go into the greenhouse. Let's have a look in here. I'm charging my solar panel. That has actually been working so well. I only charge it once a week, and you know, before the fan was so unreliable and it would turn itself off all the time and so on, and the previous company told me that, oh, it's because of the fan, not the battery. But ever since I'm using the new Jackery battery for my fan, the fan never turns itself on or off. So it's much more reliable. Oh my god, I don't think this is really liking the cold, is it? But I have not set up the solar yet because we are not getting that much sun in here, or the sun that we do get is quite low. It's not super high up in the sky, so the impact angle is not really that impactful yet. So I think that's something I'll probably set up in August, so next month. Anyway, I personally had a great time in Bangkok in the plant fair, and I really enjoyed it, and I would love to go back, but I'm not too sure if I'm ever going to be invited again. But really helped breaking up the winter months a little bit. So if I have something to look forward to, it very much helps my brain get excited. So having Bangkok to look forward to already eases my mindset going into winter, because I know, hey, I don't need to just freeze for 3 months straight. There's a little break in between, and then obviously the break in itself helps. And yeah. And next week I'm flying back up to Brisbane. It's winter over there as well, but they're a little further north, so they're a little bit warmer. And so hopefully I get lucky with the weather, but also just being out and about, doing something different, switching it up a little bit, just kind of helps me, gives me something to look forward to. It has been a really dry winter actually, but I've hardly been watering in here. I mean, nothing is really thriving, but the goal is for things to just not die. Ideally, I think that's really what I'm after. Okay, Timmy's not picking up. I wanted his help because see this Dracaena, this one and this one, they're all looking very dead, and I already cut one in between and the stem was completely rotten, so I'm assuming it's the same for these. Timmy's the one with the saw, so I'm gonna go in with a bread knife. So these shoots are healthy, but this one at the top looks very, very unhealthy. And I'm assuming when I chop here, this thing is probably going to be rotten. Actually, that bread knife works pretty well. See how it just snapped? Yeah, that's the rotten part. Success! Let me quickly check if council picks up green waste tomorrow or next week, and then let me book it. Bummer, it's next week, but we'll keep going anyway. Oh wow, this one is really thick. Whew, getting hot here. That's good. Now, 3 main reasons for that. First of all, they looked ugly. They were just dead, dangling over there. Secondly, because they're rotten, they are actually a bit of a safety hazard as well. Who says that we're not sitting there by the time it decides to fall on us? And thirdly, chopping it back now gives the plant a chance to regrow like it does over here. And then that regrowth will be a little bit lower, not all the way up there, but more here, hopefully giving me more privacy. That's the idea. So I think this winter I'm definitely doing better than last winter when it comes to mental health, which is good, right? But there are definitely a few things on my mind, and I suppose this is the forum for me to talk to you guys about these things. I know not everybody's a fan of me talking a little bit more personally, but I feel like if you made it this far into the video, you probably don't mind. I need to start thinking about moving. I mean, technically we still have a lease till February, which is fine, right? But realistically, in the months of December and January, not much gets done, right? So it's kind of, everybody's on holidays and so on. It's kind of really shitty to look for houses in that time of the year. So I either need to look for a new place a little bit earlier in like November and then leave this place early, or I need to be very much on top of my things and then hope I'm gonna find something pretty quickly towards the end of January and then move in quickly. So I would have to do all of my moving prep beforehand, right? So realistically, by the time we get out of winter, I might have September, October, November, December. I might have like 4 months before I really need to start wrapping things up for a move. I'm pretty sure we're gonna end up moving. I don't think we're staying here. We like this place, don't get me wrong, but my housemate wants to live closer to the ocean. This is the furthest away from the beach she's ever lived, and we're not that far, so I get it. Plus, I think there's a few big negatives with this house. For example, we don't have internet. I only have a 4G modem or stuff like that. The internet in this house is terrible. I can't even really like have a Zoom session with somebody because my internet is too slow. Sometimes it takes me up to 3 full days to upload a YouTube video because the internet is so slow. And for somebody who works on the internet, it is kind of important to have an internet connection, but the landlord doesn't want to be connected to NBN. The windows are like single glazed and no insulation. It gets so cold. It's quite dark. We don't have a fly screen on majority of our windows, so we can't like cross ventilate and so on. The bathroom is tiny and this place is super expensive. So for what we're paying, I don't think we're getting like that much value out of it. The value is really in the garden, right? But at some stage I need to also realize that, okay, I do want to have a garden and I enjoy it, but if it impacts everything else, like it served a purpose and I enjoy it here, but living here for longer really makes me realize all of the shortcomings of this place. And yes, every place will have shortcomings, but ignorance is bliss. If I don't know the shortcomings yet, I enjoy the place a little bit more, right? So my housemate doesn't want to stay here. I don't necessarily want to stay here either, but I also don't necessarily want to look for another rental. So, but I think I'm just going to be in a position where I don't have any other choice. That is just what I'll have to do. I'm not going to be in a position to buy anything this year. It's just too hard being self-employed. So I think I will need to go find something to rent yet again. I am not planning on upsizing this time around. So with my last few moves, I always kind of upgraded my place to have more room available, to have a larger garden, to have more space for like a greenhouse, for example, and so on. I think with the next move, I will most likely look for something by myself and I will downsize, which means I probably will not have a garden and or greenhouse in the new calendar year. And those are just kind of the thoughts that I'm trying to come to terms with over the course of winter. I'm big on expectations, you know, if I can set my own expectation, that it's easier to deal with the time it comes around, right? When I need to vacate and get rid of everything, then I'm just, you know, I knew it was coming, I set the expectation in my brain and I'm going to be okay with it. It's much harder for me to have expectations and then do something completely different. So I'm just trying to, so that's kind of what I'm working on over winter at the moment. I'm just trying to kind of set my own expectations and come to terms with what will ultimately benefit me in the long run, right? It's just, I need to start saving some money on rent so that I can actually save up money and that eventually I can get out of the cycle of renting. If I continuously spend majority of my income on rent, then I'm never going to get ahead of the curve. Less space means less plant, means less content. Less content means less income, meaning I will look for a job, probably. So I think that for now is kind of the idea that at the beginning of next year, calendar year, I will find a place and then start looking for jobs, or the other way around. I'll probably look for both, see what sticks first, let's say. Now there is another alternative that I've been kind of discussing with another friend, where we might go and share, like another friend, not my current housemate. But I think we're looking for two very different things over here as well. Ultimately, the problem is no matter who I share with, I come with a low budget, but the need for a lot of space, which is just very, very hard to find in Sydney. Basically impossible. If I want space, I need to move out of the city. If I want inexpensive rent, I need to move out of the city, but I have decided I do not want to move out of the city. I was also contemplating moving to the Central Coast, for example, because it's more affordable, more realistic for me to get into property over there. But I enjoy my social life too much to isolate myself from every single person I know. I already live 16,000 kilometers away from where I grew up. I rebuilt my little chosen family over here, and now I want to move away from them as well. Doesn't really make sense. Don't think it will ultimately actually end up making me happy. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to continue with Sydney Plant Guy. It's just not going to be in the same volume, right? It's just not going to be that much content, and it's just not going to be my full-time gig, I'm assuming. See how we go. I'm going to go into it with an open mind when it's time to look for rentals, but oh shit, oopsie, sorry box. And if I find a place that does work and I can bring my greenhouse in my garden and it kind of works with my budget, then that would be my preference. I'm just being realistic. I'm just setting the expectation in my head so that when the time comes, I'm gonna be less disappointed. Now on good days, I feel like there's a sense of relief in this, because I knew it's gonna have to come to this eventually. I can't talk about moss poles on YouTube for the rest of my life. And maybe having to move again is just a sign from the universe that I was waiting for. That kind of confirms to me that, yeah, it was a great time. It was awesome, but let's go back to something a little bit more normal. And I do get excited about the idea of my whole income, my whole livelihood isn't relying on my plants surviving. So, you know, I could do things like going on holidays so much easier and could be more carefree with that. But then on bad days, I feel like a little bit of a failure because, well, okay, you know, of course I can't talk about moss pots for the rest of my life. I could have taken this and kind of build on it, right? Like maybe do more travels, interview more people or so on, kind of create a channel and content that is less relying on me having so many plants and renting such a large place, right? So on some days I beat myself up over it because I feel like on a business level, it's not a viable business if I have to put that much money into it in the first place to rent such a large place, and then I'm not making enough money out of it. So it was kind of a bit of a stupid decision to maybe do it full time, or wasn't it? On some days I think, who cares about money? Money can be made. You were happy, right? And yes, I think it was definitely like the happiest time of my life. It's the best job I've ever had. I've had the most freedom. And I used the freedom I had in my life and the opportunities in my life to, I think, grow as a person way more than I have ever grown in any other period. So, and then I wish I could keep doing this, and then I get really sad that I might not be able to have that much freedom and flexibility in my life and do something that I actually enjoy. And I get really frustrated about the thought of maybe just having 3 or 4 weeks of annual leave in any given year and just being, like, just losing my flexibility and the joy in life. So, you know, anyway, sorry if this is really not interesting to you, but those are the things that go through my head. And I think they go through my head especially in winter when there's less distraction, right? There's less to do, I'm less busy, the business isn't going so well. Views have been down, everything is breaking, my plants are slowly dying. It's just hard to kind of keep really positive. But the trip to Thailand, for example, or reading your comments is definitely things that always kind of snap me out of it and then make me think maybe I should just keep going with it. And then I just go back and forth. It's like, it's exhausting, guys. Already filled the first box. Let me see if I have another one. Let me quickly collect a little more debris. You know, if I end up having a house without a garden, I will actually really miss gardening. I really enjoy days like today. Being in the garden, cleaning up. I love having friends over, sitting in the garden with them, having a chat. So it will definitely be something that I very much miss. But you know, it might just be temporary. Maybe I'll be in a better position in 2 years' time or something like that. And I will definitely keep having plants in those 2 years, and I will definitely keep the channel afloat. It will just be maybe in like lower capacity because I'll obviously have less time available. Or maybe I'll start growing other plants that take up less space, because I suppose all of my plants are just big space commitments. Maybe I'll split my plant collection between AJ and Timmy's house. And I still have all of them, but I suppose it defeats the purpose. I like to show you just my plant journey. If I now have to split my plant collection across 3 different houses, it's not, I feel like it's like trying too hard, you know what I mean? Like I want it to be an authentic reflection of how I actually like to run my hobby. And I don't like to run my hobby across 3 different houses. It would just be a means to keep the channel afloat, right? And I think the channel should just be a result of my life, not my life should be shaped by how I want to run my channel. Then it's a little more authentic, I think, and it's more enjoyable. Anyway, those are all just thoughts that are constantly going through my head, ruining some days for me. I hate that because I don't want the future to ruin the present, you know what I mean? The whole idea about doing this is so that I live in the moment, I enjoy my life. And now I'm just like overthinking it to the extent where I don't enjoy it anymore. Well, I mean, majority of the days I very much enjoy it. It's just the occasional day here and there, but I get asked all the time if I'm going to move again and so on. So that's why I wanted to address it with you guys, because I know you guys are showing some sort of interest in this as well. And if you're not, I'm sorry. Hopefully it's not too boring. However, I have decided when it comes to spring prep, I'm just going to go ahead as if nothing will happen. I'm just going to assume I'm staying here for the rest of my life, because that's what I really enjoy. I enjoy gardening to enjoy it in the moment. If I would now stop doing any gardening because I know eventually I'll move out of here, then I'm not enjoying the here and now anymore, right? So let's enjoy the garden as long as I have it. And if I need to vacate this place, and then when or if I vacate this place, then we'll deal with it then, right? So that is definitely something that I have told myself. We're going ahead with spring as per the usual. I might just reduce the amount of plants that I'm purchasing this year, right? But I'm not planning on purchasing any plants anyway. I'm really planning on downsizing, or if I get plants, I will get really small tissue culture plants, I think. The other consideration that I had was that, okay, if I have less space available, I can do less videos. I just need to make sure that I get income from a different source. So for example, plant consultation. I asked you guys about that in a recent video as well. And actually a lot of you guys were very positive on the back of it, saying like, yes, I think I should totally offer plant consultations, and then, you know, people will be there to pay for them, even though, you know, everything that I've got to say is already said in YouTube videos. They're paying for the convenience of me talking to them, let's say. I am warming up to it. But again, on good days, I'm just like, yeah, I should totally do this. And I mean, there's other plant influencers that are already doing it. So I can just go and, you know, price myself in line with their pricing. So I also don't outprice them, but I'm also not ripping myself off, you know what I mean? But then on a bad day, I'm just like, who do you think you are? You know, why would anybody pay you for your plant consultation? You don't even know anything anyway. You're just winging things, because I feel like at the end of the day, I'm mainly just winging things. You know what I mean? I didn't study this or that. I'm just trying and I'm hoping for the best, which is perfectly fine if I talk about my own collection, my garden, or I'm helping out Timmy with his garden and we put free plants in there, just my cuttings, right? There's nothing to lose. But as soon as somebody pays me with their hard-earned money, I feel like there's way more pressure on me. But then I've also done the Dr. SPG series on my channel before, where I always thought like I'm not adding that much value, but people were really grateful for my advice. So I think it's a head thing, right? It's me. It's a mindset thing. I know that I don't actually have anything to really worry about, but look, I live in my head 24/7, you know, so I also need to make it a priority to feel good in that head that I have to live in, you know. I think it's just one of these things, once I do it, I'll get really confident with it after a while. It's just the anticipation that's killing me. Like, I just will never anticipate that I'm going to be like good enough for it. Has always been like that a little bit. When I first started studying over here, I was so worried. I was like, I don't think I can study over here. I don't even speak English that well. Like, they're probably gonna laugh at me in class. And I started giving Australians like tutoring classes to explain economics and finance and all of that to them in their language. But I was so nervous before that. Same with finance. I was so worried about starting my finance career. I was like, oh my God, I don't even know any of these things. And within 2 years, I was the one training the person that originally did my onboarding. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, see how the tables have turned. So I'm confident in my ability once I've had a little bit of time to practice, but it's always like leading up to it, I'm not confident. But it's hard to practice. I don't know how much time to practice I have because I need to pay bills, you know. So I can't afford to spend a lot of time on free plant consultations until I get confident, because my bills don't stop coming in. I read this quote on Instagram the other day, and I should really internalize it more. It basically, oh my God, how long is this? Oh my God, hello Vine from my neighbors. It was something along the lines of like, you know, the skill that you feel self-conscious about, or you feel like you're not good enough, there's somebody else who's way worse at it, who thinks they're amazing. You know? Alrighty, enough sadness. Let me give you a little tour of the garden now that we cleaned up. And I'm just gonna do this with my phone. And let's really just focus on the aeroids as well, because the palms and all of that doesn't really change that much over the seasons. Monstera Basil, doing well. Still growing roots, but growing very, very slowly. Syngonium Styamachii, not doing well. Lots of yellow, older leaves with lots and lots of cold damage. And this new leaf is still unfurling. It's been unfurling for at least 5 or 6 weeks now. Epipremnum pinnadum, not going yellow yet, but not growing either. Monstera siltepecana El Salvador, doing nothing, which is at this stage a good thing. Monstera dubia, slowly dying, definitely getting yellower and yellower, and no signs of growth. Monstera siltepecana, going yellow, but I think these yellow leaves are just really old vines. All of the new vines usually just escape and then go onto the fence, and then I cut them, and then I cut them again, and so on. So I think there's just no, so I think any of the leaves that are actually on the pole are all at least a year old. So this is already their second winter, and probably a bit too much. Global green pothos, I chopped them, they're now slowly reshooting down here, but very slowly, but that's the goal. I just wanted to start reshooting and then spring, start growing leaves. Monstera deliciosa variegata. Again, this leaf looks like it's a new leaf, but it already unfurled last month. So these leaves are just not really unfurling that quickly. And then my Monstera Adansonii out here is doing very, very terribly. So all of these leaves, you can see they're getting very yellow compared to how they should look like. So I think they'll all drop over the course of the next month. At the top over here, it's also looking similar-ish. So we'll find out. Look, it is a triple up of this plant, so I'm not worried if it dies. It's unfortunate, but it was an experiment to see if my Adansonii can survive outside. So far, no. The Canna Cleopatra, I now completely induced dormancy, and we'll just repot her at the beginning of spring. Oh, did I do this? Did I just bump into that? Let me cut this off then. Alright, over here it's looking much cleaner without all of the dead Dracaenas, and I'm really hoping that wherever I cut them, you can see this one already reshot because the stem in itself was already rotten. Or over here, you know, where it just reshoots. Hopefully that will create a lot of lushness more like here in privacy. Like you can see this big one also reshot down here a couple of times. That's the sort of lushness that I want. The Strelitzia Nicolai was unfurling this leaf last time I updated you as well, so this has been also unfurling for over a month. And then in the garden bed, nothing crazy, but you can just see that everything is just not quite as happy anymore. The big three, the Colocasia, are doing surprisingly well. The Thaumatophyllum is doing well, but that's not really a surprise. And the banana is doing terribly, but it's all mechanical damage that I've experienced, so I don't think the temperatures, I mean, she doesn't like the temperatures, but she's still somewhat growing. She's definitely not dying. So I don't think the temperatures are the issue. I don't think the substrate, the watering, I think it's just the exposure to wind. And that's something I can't do much about. Over here, that corner, I'll just quickly paint into it. Not all too much happening. The allocators are still growing okay, right? Apart from the Sarian that I put in my pocket, that little, need to remember to put that in water or something like that. They're all doing okay. Not much happening in the greenhouse, kind of nothing, like no change to before. I just chopped off a couple of the leaves on here, and it looks like a few more are on the way out. So we might go into spring with very few leaves, which is maybe time to start chopping it a little bit. No new growth, but also nothing completely dead yet. So let's just close it and hope for the best. Over here, the bromelias are doing quite well actually. We didn't really do anything with them today, but you can see lots and lots of little pups coming out here. And the Syngonium mojito behind us over here is still doing fine. So is the Xanadu. Oh, and of course my Bismarck palm over here is also doing quite well, actually pushing out a second leaf over here. So it's never growing that fast, which is good. It's getting a bit colder, so let me put on that jacket again. So that's it. I feel much better about the garden. It looks a little bit neater, cleaner. Obviously I would prefer some new leaves instead of yellow leaves, but can't have it all. I think that is probably the theme of the entire video. Can't have it all, so you gotta make sacrifices, weigh up your options, and then choose the option that might tick the most boxes. And with that comes a few compromises, and you know, it will work out for the better in the long run. So thanks for listening to me today. I really enjoy these sessions, talking to you guys about it. Of course I talk to my friends about it, but when I talk to the internet about it, I'm trying to be a little more articulate with it. I'm trying to be a little bit more measured in it as well, you know. I don't necessarily want to have a panic attack on YouTube. So it actually really helps me to put my thoughts into more cohesive patterns and sentences. So thanks for the therapy session, guys. At the end of the day, like, all of the things that I discussed today are crazy first world problems, right? I still feel really privileged that I ever gotten to do this job, and if I get to do it for only 2 years before doing something else again, then so be it. If I get to do it for longer, then that would obviously be ideal, but at the end of the day, I'm grateful that I even have that sort of problem, right? It's definitely a very good problem to have. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm obviously really grateful for the position that I'm in. But, you know, that's the logical part of me talking. The emotional part in me obviously has desires and dreams and wishes and is quite ambitious and, you know, doesn't want to settle for okay, I want excellence. And then realizing that that's not going to happen is kind of just this inner turmoil. Anyway, I really need to wrap it up because it's getting a bit colder and more uncomfortable outside, and I'm sure you want me to stop talking as well. So again, thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already, and subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video.